Hi everybody, this is Anne. We asked all the members of the Facebook Pottery Studio group for their favorite ways to use natural materials in their studios. Today, I'll highlight 5. First up is horsehair. Janez Malebranche uniquely uses horsehair to accent chattering and sgraffito designs on her beautiful pottery. To achieve this effect, we have to heat the pottery to 1300 degrees. For safety reasons, wear proper protective gear, clothing, and shoes. Make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area with access to a fire extinguisher. For fun, we thought we'd experiment with human hair as well as horsehair. I heated the pottery up to around 1300 degrees and shut the kiln down. I then transferred the hot vase to a broken kiln shelf. For this vase, I used the horsehair. I carefully draped strands of the hair over the top of the piece. It's better to apply the hairs a few at a time to control the process. Too many hairs would create a surface that's too busy. On the second vase, we used my own hair. Human hair is much thinner than horsehair, and I wasn't sure if it would create strong enough marks. I ended up using more bunches of the strands together to create the burn marks. I was rather pleased at how it looked. The second natural material is tree bark. Johnny Webb explained how she made her beautiful bowl using a hump mold. To make the mold, I rolled out a large 1/4 inch thick slab on a pastry mat and ribbed it smooth. While still on the pastry mat, I put the slab right over the bark of the tree trunk. I made sure to really press the clay into all the grooves, then carefully removed it. I am making this mold with a styrofoam hollow half sphere. I put the sphere over the clay and traced it out and cut the bottom. Then I removed the excess clay. For easier shifting over the styrofoam, I placed a piece of plastic wrap over the surface. Then I gently peeled the clay up and placed it over the top of the mold. Now if you want the texture on the inside of the finished bowl, place the textured slab face up. Now gently form the clay to the curved surface. I also made a sample using the texture right from the tree trunk in conjunction with the texture from this pine tree branch. I rolled the branch into a separate slab and cut strips from that. I attached the strips to the top and the bottom of the bark textured slab to create this vase. Number 3 is the longleaf pine needles. As you can see, these particular pine needles are almost as long as my forearm. Carrie Degovic likes to weave the dried needles to accent the top of her pottery. Here's one that I made, and I learned that careful advanced planning is needed to achieve this technique. I threw this base on the wheel, creating a recessed rim with piercings spaced equally apart. I cut out a large hole on the bottom and punched 24 equally spaced holes around the rim. I thought it would be interesting to create a hand-built base with the tree bark texture and then weave the pine needles to the top. First twist the caps off the pine needles. I then use a portion of a plastic straw as a guide. Thread about 10 pine needles into the guide. Using hemp cord and a large-eyed needle, tie the hemp to one of the holes and lash the pine needle ends to the top of the pot. Continue weaving the hemp around the pine needles through the holes in the base until you have the look that you want. You can leave it as a simple design, or you can make it more complicated using different stitches, crimping, or even beading. I could have also planned to add a more complicated wax linen weaving to it, just like this one. The sky's the limit. Next up is imprinted plants and florals, like the technique seen in these beautiful pieces made by Joanna Masloom and Jackie Burns. First, I went nature hunting in my yard looking for plants I thought would make a nice impression. I needed to trim those back anyway. I rolled and ribbed out a smooth slab of clay. I then laid out the plants the way that I wanted. I rolled these plants into the clay one at a time, going over the plants several times with a small brayer to make sure I got a good impression. Any excess plant material will fire out in the kiln, so I'm not concerned about debris. I cut out a pattern and placed it where I wanted to make cuts. For this platter, I used underglaze to highlight the recessed texture. When the piece is almost bone dry, I strategically applied the underglaze and wiped away the excess to create this effect. Finally are the seashells. There are so many ways to use them, such as this unique work by Zahava Goldstein, or the inlaid tiles by Karen Medley. I cheated and got this particular shell at the craft store. I thought I could use it to make a set of matching dishes, so I needed to create a mold of this. I rolled out a clay slab and laid it over the shell, making sure to capture all the small details of the shell. I then let it dry and bisque fired it. Once it's bisqued, then you can make little dishes by pressing clay into the molds and cutting them out. Here's the one that I've already done, and it's bone dry, ready to be bisqued. In addition to being used in hand building, you can use the shells to create texture to your wheel throne work. The fluted texture of the shell is perfect for textural additions to your vases and mugs. So just by using natural materials found right outside your door, you too can use your imagination to capture their beauty and enhance your pottery. If you like our videos, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time in the studio.